right, I wanted to go over a couple questions from the What Do You Know quiz that we took on Friday. So the first thing that I want to do is talk about a couple definitions. The first definition is a sum. Okay, when I talk about sum, I'm talking about addition. So if I'm looking for the sum of two numbers, I want to add them together. Likewise, if I talk about difference, I'm talking about subtraction. That's subtraction. If I'm talking about product, then I'm talking about what? Multiplication. I'm just going to write multiply. And then lastly, if we're talking about quotient, if I'm talking about a quotient, that means that I'm dividing. A couple people got sum and product mixed up on our quiz, and so I just want to make sure that we went over all of those today. Most of these were pretty good, so if I talk about adding a negative number, that means that this initial number is getting bigger or smaller, depending on how you look at it, right? So if I have a number line here, this is my -1, -2, -3, -4, and so on, -5. Starting at -1, I'm adding another -3, which means that I'm going 3 more in this direction, which means that this equals -4. This is the same thing. I'm starting at 0, going 12 backwards, right? So I'm left with -12 for that guy. Next one here is subtracting a negative number. So when we talk about subtracting, usually that means the number gets smaller, right? But in this case, we're subtracting a negative number, which means that we're subtracting in the opposite direction. That's the way that we can think about this. So if I'm subtracting in the opposite direction, that means instead of going 2 to the left, like I normally would if I subtracted, I'm going to go 2 to the right. Some people also like to think of this as they change this to addition, right? So if you change that to addition, that means that this is 7. We'll go over that one because we've done similar. Okay, so two pairs of numbers whose sum is -6. If you remember, sum means add. So two numbers that add to -6. So it could be -3, -3 plus -3. That gives us -6. We could do -12 plus 6. That would give me -6. We could do -7 plus 1. Any combination of any of these, right? We're adding two numbers together to get to -6. This one, some people struggled with. So when we talk about range, we're talking about the biggest number and we're subtracting the smallest number. So the hottest temperature recorded on Earth, 134 degrees Fahrenheit. The coldest recorded temperature on Earth is -128 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I'm talking about the range, my equation is going to look something like this. I'm going to have 134 minus -128. And I just said two negatives make a positive, right? So we're going to actually add these two together. That means we're left with 262. And that makes sense, right? So if I'm starting at -128 In order to get to 0, I need to go 128 places, right? Once I get to 0, I need to go another 134 places. So it would make sense that my answer would actually be bigger than the two numbers that I have. Multiplication, so if I multiply a negative times a positive, it's going to leave me with a negative, right? 13 times negative 2 is going to give me negative 26. Two negatives will make a positive, so negative 8 times negative 5. That's just going to give me a positive 40. Everyone got this question right. 14 divided by 2 is in fact 7, so I'm not going to go over that one. Similarly with multiplication with division, if one of them is negative, one's positive, your answer will be negative. So 30 divided by negative 3 is going to give me negative 10. Okay, two pairs of numbers whose product is negative 20. Product, remember, means that we're going to multiply. So two numbers that multiply together to give us negative 20. So I could start with negative 4. Negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. That's a negative 4. This board hates me. Negative 4 times 5. It could also just be 2 times negative 10. We could do negative 20 times 1, right? There's all different kinds of combinations that we can do for this one. Okay, this last one most people had problems with, and I realized that some of it was in my wording. I had a student in one of my classes point that out to me. And so I'm going to explain this one a little bit. So the Hudson football team loses 3 yards in 3 consecutive plays. What is their total yardage after these 3 plays? So my intention was to look at this being 0, right? They're starting at 0. The first play, they lose 3 yards. Now they start here. Second play, they lose another 3 yards. Now they start here. Third play, they lose another 3 yards. After these 3 plays, how many total yards have they lost? They've lost negative 9. They're at negative 9 yards from where they started. I had one student that said, well, when I saw that they lost 3 yards in 3 plays, he thought that that was just the total, was those 3 yards in 3 consecutive plays, and so he thought the answer was negative 3. This was my original intention, was to get you to negative 9. I can understand where you would have gotten negative 3 though as well. So that's all of the questions. I just kind of wanted to go over a couple concepts with you before we moved on to our next stuff today.